Hello everybody, welcome back to the Bubble Daddy Soap YouTube channel, and today I am actually making bath bombs on camera. This is the second time I tried it. The first time the weather got in the way and I didn't wind up posting that video, but anyway. So here I have some baking soda, and this baking soda has been colored with blue number 1 and a little bit of yellow number 5 to give it kind of a teal shade. And what I do is you have to mix those so they come as little jars of powder. In fact, I can show you. So this is blue number 1. And as you can see, if you look at the powder, it actually is kind of a maroon color. So what you have to do is you have to bloom it in water. You have to add it to water to get it to turn the right shade. And then I add that water to the baking soda. And I let it dry, because if I don't let it dry when I add the other ingredients to this, it will just fizz up and I won't be able to make bath bombs out of it. So I allow it to dry, and then after it's dried, it's all chunky and hard, so I sift it to get it back to a nice fine powder. So this video is in all likelihood going to be quite a bit longer than most of my videos, because this is a long and messy process. Boy, you guys thought I made a mess when I made soap. Wait till you see me do this. Okay, so I have my baking soda here, all bloomed and ready to go. Now, I need to add my citric acid. And I get my citric acid from Wholesale Supplies Plus. You can see Crafter's Choice is their in-house brand. It already comes nice and fine, so I don't have to grind it. Some places their citric acid is really thick, and so it has to be ground up. And that is just not my style. I don't know if I'm more efficient or just more lazy, or maybe a combination of the two, but I am not going to buy thick, coarse citric acid and have to grind it up myself. I'd much rather it be a fine powder when it comes to my doorstep, and I tend to buy, this is a 5-pound bag, I tend to buy 3 or 4 of these at a time to make bath bombs with. Just trying to measure all this out. And some people sift this too. I don't find that that's necessary. I find that once I start mixing, this will break apart and do what it's supposed to do on its own. Come on, just a little bit more. So those of you who have never made bath bombs before, basic ratio for a bath bomb is 1 part citric acid to 2 parts baking soda. Now I'm making a smallish to medium-sized batch today, trying to keep it simple, because this can get intense and can take a lot of time. And since this is the first time I'm doing this on camera, I thought I'd show you guys my simpler technique without all of the many colors that I sometimes use. Sometimes 3 colors in a single bomb, sometimes more. So you go ahead and you mix that up. So right now, if I wanted to, I could take this and spray it down with some rubbing alcohol to wet it, and it would be just fine. It would have absolutely no issues. It would come together, and we would be good to go. I'm not going to stop there, because I like my bath bombs to do some different things. I like them to be a little harder. I like them to give off a little bit of bubble. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add white kaolin clay, that I also get from Wholesale Supplies Plus. And this stuff is a very fine powder. What this does is, it's pretty good for your skin. This is one of the things that gets put into clay face masks a lot, kaolin clay. But another little benefit that this has is that it helps my bath bombs harden quite a lot. And since I sell everything through the mail, I definitely like things to be as hard as humanly possible because I don't want them to get damaged in transit. So as you can see, as I add ingredients to this, it's starting to get lighter. It's starting to turn more of a pale blue color. Well, let me tell you, that's not going to stay that way because in a minute, I've got one more dry ingredient to add. And after I add that last dry ingredient, which is SLSA, this stuff, I'll start to add my wet ingredients, my fragrance oil. I add grapeseed oil to this, and I add polysorbate 80 to this, and you will see that it starts to darken again. What'll happen is it'll sort of reactivate the colors, the colorant in the blue, which will bleed onto everything else before it starts to set up again. And these colors are water soluble, so when you put them in when you put this in your tub, it's going to turn your tub a pretty bright blue color, and then it's going to rinse away. It's not going to turn your bathtub blue. It's not going to leave a ring. It's not going to stain your body, your skin. It's going to wash away, which is what I like. So the last dry ingredient I'm going to add is called SLSA, sodium lauryl sulfoacetate, and it is a very mild surfactant. It is, I believe it's made from, don't quote me on this, I think it's made from coconuts or something like that. I'll look it up and I'll put a little caption in there. Anyway, I get mine from Two Wild Hairs, which is an Etsy store. And I've ordered from them several times, and I used to order this from Wholesale Supplies Plus, and I found that theirs was really expensive, something like $23 a pound. And Two Wild Hairs prices are much more reasonable, even including the shipping, so I order from them. Something to be aware of with SLSA is that it is very fine. The stuff that I buy is actually labeled coarse, but that's because the fine version, which I don't actually think is available most places, is so fine that it's basically aerosolized when it's exposed to air. And this stuff is really fine, and you do have to be really careful not to inhale it when it's in this powder form like that. You can see that there's like a cloud of dust coming off of my mixture, and that's actually the kaolin clay. But you have to be really careful with this stuff because it is a mild irritant if you inhale it in its powder form. Now, once I add my liquids to it, it will all bind up with everything else, and it'll be perfectly fine. But you do have to be careful with this when you're working with the raw ingredient. Okay, so now that is my dry mix. Now it's time to start adding the wet ingredients. So we're gonna go ahead. For this one I'm using black tie from Nature's Garden. It has a nice clean scent to it. And we're just gonna go ahead and add that in. So as you can see, where the oil hit the mix, it has darkened up. And as I mix this in, you will see that that starts to become the case with the whole mixture. So the next thing I'm going to add is some grapeseed oil. This is a nice lightweight oil that absorbs quickly into the skin. And I like to use this as a binder. I think it works better than heavier oils. Some people use coconut oil. I've tried that, and I actually have some coconut oil bath bombs available in the store, and they work well, but my personal preference is this grapeseed oil. So now we're going to mix this in. And we want to make sure that everything gets mixed in really well, that there's no clumps of oil left in the mix anywhere. That's pretty. It's coming together really well. And we're almost to the point where this should hold together on its own, but not quite yet. We're gonna have to spray this one down with some rubbing alcohol, I think. Yeah, that's starting to come together better, see? Okay, so that's about mixed. I've got one more wet ingredient to add. This is polysorbate 80, and what polysorbate 80 does is help the oil in the mixture. It is an emulsifier, so it helps the oil in the mixture mix with the water. That's good. Might be a little too much actually, but we'll see. So you go ahead and you mix all of this in. When you get it all mixed together, this will hit the water, and instead of an oil slick on top, which is what you get if you don't add this, it will all mix in. It also has the added benefit of slowing down the rate at which the bath bomb fizzes out. So if I don't use this, sometimes my bath bombs are done in a minute and a half. But when I do use this, plus the SLSA, I sometimes get, I think the longest I've ever gotten out of a bath bomb was half an hour, and I'm not even kidding. Usually these will go 10 to 15 minutes, but I have had that crazy half an hour. Actually, that one wasn't one I made for sale. That one was just one I made for us. And it took forever, and I sat there and I watched it sitting in the tub just in awe, not able to do anything else because this little thing was just fizzing away, spitting color all over the tub, but it wasn't getting any smaller. It was insane and really, really cool. So this is my basic bath bomb mix. This is the base mix that I use for all of my bath bombs, or almost all of my bath bombs. It holds together pretty well. I usually don't have to add any rubbing alcohol to get these to hold. We'll see how that goes. So I have one more special little thing that I use in this particular bath bomb. These are some embeds that I made, and rather than the normal 2-to-1 baking soda to citric acid ratio in these have a 1-to-1 baking soda to citric acid ratio, which means they will fizz out faster. And the idea is that you put these inside of a bath bomb, and it causes, when it gets to them, it causes them to spin and fizz and zoom around the tub, which I love. I find that very entertaining. So we're going to put some of those in there. So the next thing I want to talk about is how I press my bath bombs. Now, when I started out making bath bombs, I did all of them by hand. I had molds that were 2 halves of a mold, and you would pack each one and then sort of grind them together. And that worked really well, got really solid bath bombs. However, that's really hard on your hands. And when I say really hard, I mean really hard. I would do one batch and I would start to feel sore in here from trying to grind everything together. So I did a little digging and treated myself to a little retail therapy. And I bought, let's straighten that up a little bit. I bought this. This is a manual bath bomb press. I got it from bathbombexpress.com. I'll put a link down in the description. It works amazing. There is a bit of a learning curve to it. You have to figure out how to get your recipe just right to make it work, or it won't do what you want it to do. It'll stick or whatever. But over time, over the past couple of months, I have really gotten this down. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start packing these. And what I do is I weigh out my mixture, and I will weigh these out. I want each one of these to weigh 207 grams. Go ahead and scrape some of that out. That's good. So here we have our embeds. We've packed a little bit in here, and you just put these inside like that. And then you pack your mixture the rest of the way. So that's toeing the line between 206 and 207. So that's 207 grams. Now, the way this is intended to be used is that this little plastic piece here screws off. And you screw the top half of this mold to it. But that also gives you what's called a Saturn ring, which is the little ring around the outside, and I'm not a big fan of that. So I do this a little bit differently. So first thing you want to do, and get in the habit of this, is wipe out the inside of this every time. So then I'm going to take this and I'm going to press it like that. And I have this little plunger. I'm going to pull it out of the mold. And as you can see, I'm left with a little bit of a Saturn ring. So what I'm going to do, and this is the messy part, is that I'm going to take it and I'm going to press it again. And that will crunch the Saturn ring right off. You see that? Just comes right off of there. Nice and pretty. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bath bomb that's in here, give it a little tap. It comes loose just like that. And then I have, these are the molds that I used to use. I'm going to turn this over. Bath bomb. Once we've got that done, we simply repeat the process. And we're going to do this, wipe out the top half of the mold. We're going to do this until we run out of mix. Ta-da! So, I'm going to keep going, and I will be back when all of these are done. Okay, so we are back. Like I said, I was making a small batch of these. I usually do smaller batches of bath bombs because they don't last as long, and I don't want to make a whole bunch of them and then have them not sell or risk somebody possibly getting an old one. So this is what they look like when they're all done. I leave them in this little plastic thing for about a day, and then tomorrow what I'll do is I'll turn them out and let them harden completely, and then they'll be ready to go. And I will do a tub test. I think I'm going to upload this on a Friday. I think I'm going to start doing like a bath bomb Fridays sort of thing where I make a batch of bath bombs for you guys. So you'll probably have seen the tub test for this already. I usually post those on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So anyway, these are, I think I'm going to call these Blue Lagoon. I think that's a fitting name for these. So if you like this video, please be sure to like, leave a comment, subscribe. If you want notifications when I post new videos, which is multiple times a week, hit that bell icon down below. Once again, I've been Trevor with the Bubble Daddy Soap Company, and I will see you guys soon.